Welcome to my channel, and I'm back with you once again with another video of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Nowadays I'm doing a series of videos for the Salty Simulations Boeing 747, and I've done 4 or 5 videos which covers how to download this plane and then to start it from the cold and dark state, how to configure the FMC, and getting you familiar with the cockpit lights. I've tried to break down all the aspects into different videos because it's easy to watch a single video rather than cramping all the information in one video. Then it becomes very lengthy and obviously it gets very boring for the people. And obviously if somebody is looking for a specific thing, they can just go and search it on the internet. So that's why I'm just breaking all the aspects of this plane into different videos, so it's easy for you to just watch and learn from it. It's for the beginners, I must tell you, because I'm also a beginner. I don't have any prior aviation experience or knowledge or education. Whatever I've learned is through the internet and from this community. So that's why I just make these videos for all those people who are at a very beginner's level. But if you are at a certain level of expertise and you're watching this video, then thank you very much for being here. So right now I'm parked at, not really parked at, I'm about to taxi from the Jinnah International Airport, Karachi, and I will be heading towards Islamabad International Airport. It's going to be a short flight for 2 hours, and hopefully we'll try to learn many things from this video. And if you also want to add something to it, you're more than most welcome. The comment section is there for you. So I've now configured the FMC. As you can see, the flight plan is entered over here. If you press this option legs, you will see that the flight plan is there. It is also populated on the navigation display, and plus I have set the MCP, which is the mode control panel. The flight director is on, the auto throttle is on, and the heading of the runway for the takeoff is 74 degrees. The V2 is over here, 154, which I will try to achieve right after the takeoff, because V2 is the speed at which the plane can still fly if 1 or 2 engines fail. And the cruising altitude will be 38,000, but as I have turned on the LNAV and the VNAV option, so because of the VNAV option, the plane will actually try to follow the altitude and speed constraints which are there in the flight plan. If I give you an overview of the flight plan, you will see that at Badul, the plane should be at 7,000 feet, and you can see just right after the takeoff we have a point DD 400, and then afterwards it's Badul. So till this point the plane should not go more than 7,000 feet, and after this the plane will again start to climb at to 38,000 feet, and right after the descent we have to descend to ISDO, that is 10,000, and then we have another waypoint BTR. So just cycle through the flight plan, because I think there is one additional waypoint in the flight plan. Let's see if you move this knob to plan. Right now it's on map. If you move it to map plan, you will be able to see the flight plan. And if I just zoom in and if I cycle through the FMC, yes, there is BTR. So what I'll do is this. Right now I will just delete BTR. If you press delete, you can just change it. Okay, let's clear it. I think the speed brake comes. I'll just clear it and then I will just move it again. Let's arm the speed brake. Let's see, speed brake armed. Okay, so let's also delete this one. Execute, and I think now I have a good flight plan. Yes, so I will go to this point. Yes, BTR. There's this waypoint actually when the plane is trying to land at let me see. If I go back to index and check my flight plan, I am landing at 10 right via ISDO belt 1C. So from ISDO we'll turn left, and from here we'll turn right and then land at the runway. So now I have fixed it. BTR, I could have just left it there, but it's totally dependent on the flight plan that you are making, which I've already covered in the FMC programming part. So if you just go and watch that video, you will know how to make a flight plan, how to get the star and the SID and all the information regarding the flight plan. So right now for this video I will be just focusing on flying this plane on autopilot, so that's why flight plan doesn't make such a big difference. But if I'm touching the flight plan for the Salty Simulations Boeing 747, then definitely I will be going into those details. You can see the flaps are set to 10, which is for the takeoff, and the flaps are here at position 10 degrees, and everything is good. Gear lever down, throttle is in the idle position, parking brake is engaged, seat belt sign is on, and that's it. All the lights are on, the strobe is on, the beacon is on, and the logo lights, the wing lights, all the lights are on, and this is the taxi light and the turn lights for the taxi. This is also on, left and right, so everything is good. Engines are up and running, APU is off, so everything is now set. So let's start the taxi. But before this, I would just like to give you some introduction to these two buttons, LNAV and VNAV. In the previous video, I've told you how to program the MCP, which is the mode control panel. And once you have done done with the FMC programming, you have to turn on the LNAV and VNAV. LNAV is an option due to which the plane actually follows the flight path. So it tells the plane whether to go left or right and follow all the waypoints in the flight plan, as you can see it over here on your screens. So this is due to the LNAV. VNAV actually sets the speed of the plane and plus the ascent and the descent rate, the climb rate, which you can just say. So during the flight, you will see when I will activate the autopilot just right after the takeoff, I will press this button. You will see that the plane will automatically adjust its speed and plus the climb rate, and once I've started my descent, it will also control the descent speed. Just to tell you one thing, that below 10,000 feet the plane should not go more than 250 knots. So you will see in this video that while the autopilot is active, the plane will not go more than 250 knots below 10,000 feet, and once we'll cross the 10,000 feet mark, then the speed will also increase, and moreover it will also try to follow all the constraints. So right now in this flight plan, you will see that you have seen that there is a constraint at Badul, so the plane will stay at 10,000 feet. Before this, I would just like to get the ATC clearance to get the barometric pressure so that I can adjust my altimeter, and let's see if I can tune into the ATIS to get the weather information. Wind 239er at 14. Visibility 4. Sky condition, few clouds at 1,700 feet. 29er80. So it's 29er80. Right now it's 29er92. Let me just... Okay. It's going back again. Let me just fix this issue. Okay, now I've changed the radio frequency. I think we'll not be able to hear the ATIS anymore. Okay, so it was 80 if I'm not wrong. Just double check it. The temperature is 28 degrees, dew point is 10, 29er80. Okay, so we have to adjust this barometric pressure because the plane measures the altitude of the plane depending on the barometric pressure. So if there is any pressure change outside, you have to actually adjust the altimeter so you get the right altitude. And after the transition altitude, you have to set this information or this feature to the standard. Just press this button, goes back to standard. As you can see, the altimeter is getting adjusted. And if I press it back again, it will go back to the adjusted altimeter settings for the barometric pressure. That's 29er80. To check the transition altitude, we have to refer to the airport charts. So let's open the airport charts, and I have actually Navigraph subscription, so that's why I can access these charts. But otherwise, If you don't have, you can try searching them over the internet. If you find them, it's good. Otherwise, you have to get a subscription. So if I just minimize it and I just see the SID, which is for the departure, it will be Badu 3B. So let's see if I can find it in the airport charts. So for the departure, let's check. The transition altitude is 3,000 feet. So after 3,000, I will be changing the barometric pressure from the given one to the standard. Okay, so that's it. So we are all done now. Let's start the taxi, release the parking brakes, and let's take this plane to the runway 7 right. In my videos, I don't use the ATC because then there is a lot of disturbance during the video. It just breaks the tempo. So that's why I don't use it. So right now I'm holding short of runway 7 right, and let's go out and have a look at it. So here it is. Not really straight. But I will be turning right from here to runway 7 right. Okay. Just before the takeoff, make sure that the auto brakes are set to RTO, which is for the rejected takeoff. As you can see, auto brakes set to RTO, ECAS, which is the upper ECAS and the lower ECAS. This is giving you the information for the engines and the fuel, and this is giving you information about the thrust. And plus, if there is any warning, it will appear over here. The seatbelt sign is on, the speed brakes are armed, and the parking brake is set, and plus the auto brakes are set to RTO. You have to arm the speed brakes because in case of rejected takeoff, you decide not to take off before the V1. V1 is the speed at which you before which you can decide to abort the runway. If I go to the initial reference and I go to the takeoff, you will see V1 is 118 knots. So till this speed, if you stop, you will be able to stop. But if you cross 118 knots, then you have to actually take off and reach this V2 speed, which is 154 knots in case of an engine failure or any other issue, and then you can just turn back and do the landing. During the flight, we will be keeping an eye on the PFD. Over here you will see many indicators. Right now it's showing you V1 118 knots, and plus, I think, if I'm not wrong, I've done flights with this plane, but you will hear the call outs as for the V1 and VR, and plus you will also see information regarding the flaps. So during this video I will just show you each thing on every step. So at this point you have to get the clearance for the takeoff, but right now, as I told you before, I will not be using the ATC. But if you are using ATC, then you have to get the clearance from the ATC for the takeoff, and just make sure that no other plane is coming, and then you can release the parking brakes and you can proceed with the takeoff. During the takeoff, or right now when I'll turn on this runway on 7 right, I will just give initially 50% of the thrust, and then afterwards when the plane is at 50% of thrust, then I will give the full thrust. This green line you can see till here, you have to actually bring your thrust. So that's good, and let's see how this thing works, because the reduced thrust is, like, if I'm not wrong, the plane will take off at 85% of the thrust, not be going with the maximum thrust. It's really a good experience flying this plane in the Microsoft Flight Simulator. The plane which comes with the Microsoft Flight Simulator, it doesn't have some features in it, but this is a modified version of the Salty Simulations, so it has got some features, added features, which really makes this plane fun to fly. So now we are aligned with the runway and everything is looking good. Let's take this plane up in the air. just till the green line, the throttle. You can see it over here on the screen. And now I can rotate. As soon as I have a positive rate of climb, I can track the gears, and let's turn left. Let's pause it over here. Yes, from here. And you can see the flaps information is coming. The speed is constantly increasing. So with this, I can now retract the flaps, because you can hear I am getting this overspeed warning. Okay, I can just correct the course. You have to decrease the vertical speed. It was really high, as you can see. So you have to adjust it accordingly. I can just reduce the thrust a bit, and with this I can turn on the autopilot by pressing this button, and you can see the flaps are not fully retracted. Now the flaps are back. You can see this green thing coming up over here, up, which means you can just take your flaps up. So I have now retracted the flaps. There are no flaps right now. The seatbelt sign is on. We have crossed the 3,000 feet mark, which is for the transition altitude. So I can change it to standard now. The altimeter is now set. The speed is, you can see, is set to 249 knots, which is the speed the plane should be at below 10,000 feet. Now you can see, as per the constraints over here, the legs at D0 40. Oh, if I'm not wrong. Strange name. Okay, so the altitude should be 7,000 feet. At Badul, again at 7,000 feet, and after Badul, the plane will start to climb to 38,000 feet. So right now you can see it on your screens, that on the PFD also, that the plane is leveled off at 7,000 feet and the speed is maintained at 250 knots. This is because of the VNAV option. If I turn off the VNAV option, then obviously the plane will keep on climbing. Then you have to use the vertical speed option, which I will not be using in this video, or maybe I'll just show you how it works. So right now everything is good thanks to the VNAV and the LNAV option. So if you're a beginner, it's better to fly the plane on VNAV and LNAV, which will give you a good control over your flight. And once you have some expertise, then you can try the vertical speed and plus some other options for the autopilot. Okay, so I think at Badul the altitude is not given, so that's why I thought at Badul it should be at 7,000, but it's not given, so that's why it will start to climb. Now you can see, as I have crossed this waypoint, the plane has again started to climb, and it will keep on climbing, and after 10,000 feet the speed will also increase. The autopilot will reduce the vertical speed and the speed will increase. So let's see how it works. The VNAV option, 9,700, 800, 900 and 10,000 feet. Now will the speed change? Yes, the speed is now set to 326 knots. So you have to keep an eye over here. Over here 38,000 feet, which is for the altitude, and this is for the speed. So this is what the plane is going to achieve right now. And this part of the PFD is known as the flight mode annunciator, FMA. And you can see the speed is controlled by the VNAV, LNAV is active, and plus thrust is also, auto throttle, sorry, not the thrust, auto throttle is also active. So right now the plane is giving preference to the speed rather than the climb rate, because it has to increase the speed. So the climb rate has reduced a bit so that the plane can achieve the speed, and once the speed is achieved, maybe the vertical speed increases, and then it will give priority to the altitude. And we'll see what will happen right now. So that's the advantage of using the VNAV. It makes your flight really easy. Right now priority is given to the speed. So let's see what happens. The best thing about this plane is this, that you can also see the top of descent. So this is the point from where we will start the descent, which will be covered in other video. I will not be covering the descent and the ILS approach and landing point in it. As you can now see, the plane is now stable at 324 knots, which is, and the target speed was 326 knots, so plus minus 2 knots. But you can see now the vertical speed has increased. Now speed is stable, so the autopilot is giving priority to the altitude, and it will try to reach 38,000 feet as soon as possible. So this is the advantage. Let me try deactivating VNAV, and let's see if I can do that. Can I do it? Let's see. If I change the vertical speed now, as I've pressed, let's do it again. So if I press the vertical speed button, actually I'm doing it after a long time. I just really forgot. So if you press this vertical speed button, now the vertical speed is being controlled by you. Although autopilot is getting information from the mode control panel, but you are adjusting the speed. So let's say if I reduce the speed to 300 knots, you will see the speed will reduce. This is just for your information. Now you can see the speed is reducing, and as soon as this speed is achieved, and then the plane will again start to climb at the rate of 2,800 feet per minute, as I've set it here. If I increase the vertical speed, you can see now it's climbing to 3,600. So if you want, you can adjust your vertical speed. You want to climb without using the VNAV option, then you can use the vertical speed option and the speed, and you can control it yourself. But it's better to have the VNAV option on. So that's how you manually do it. So you turn on the VNAV, everything then goes back to the normal as per the autopilot, whatever is there. But if you want to take control of the climb and the speed, just simply press vertical speed, and then you can adjust the vertical speed. If I set to 1,800 and the speed I set to, let's say, 300, you will see the speed will reduce, and in the FMA you can see the vertical speed is now there, and the speed, you can see the VNAV option has started to go, have disappeared, not started to go. Actually, a very tiring days nowadays. Okay, so vertical speed is being controlled by you, and plus the speed is also set by you, and there is no auto throttle. But if I press VNAV, you will see in the FMA all the information. So it's really good to keep an eye on your primary flight display during the flight, so that you know what is going on. Right now the climb rate is 1,800. It is stable at 1,850 feet per minute, and the speed is at 300. So let's go back to VNAV, and you can see now the plane is reducing its climb rate in order to increase the speed, and once the speed is achieved, then the plane will again start to climb. And this is happening because of the auto throttle. If you don't arm the auto throttle, then it will not do it. It will not happen, whatever you're looking at. Okay. So this was a simple introduction of the autopilot, taking this plane up in the air. And hopefully at this point, I think we are above 10,000 feet mark, so we can turn off the seat belts. As I was telling you many things, so that's why I've skipped it. But above 10,000 feet, you can turn off the seat belt signs, and plus you can also turn off the lights. We don't need them. Oops, they're already these lights. And logo light is not required, and the wing light is also not required. The strobe, the nav, and the beacon lights are required. Beacon is actually a light on the top and at the bottom of the plane. It's a red light which is blinking in the night and plus in the day as well, which tells the ground staff that the engine is running. As soon as after the landing, when you turn off the engines, you have to turn off the beacon. Nav is there are two lights on the left and the right side of the plane. On the right side of the plane, it's a green light which tells let's go out and see. Let's also touch this topic, because if you have not watched the previous video, but for this I have to change the time, and then I can just go out and show you. You can see this green light which is on the right side of the plane. If some plane is looking at the green light, it can see that the plane is going towards the right side, as you can see. And if you're seeing a red light, it means the plane is going towards the left side, if you cannot see the fuselage in the dark, if you cannot see the fuselage in the night. Okay, so that's how it's done. And let's increase the time again, and let's get back into the cockpit. So, and the strobe is actually a white light which is blinking, and the planes can see other planes from the distance in the night and plus in the morning as well. Right now you can see the plane is climbing, and the rate of climb is slightly reducing, because in the upper atmosphere the air is thin. So that's why in order to maintain the speed, the vertical speed keeps on reducing and the plane keeps on climbing. So eventually after some time we will be at 38,000 feet. You see this arc over here, intersection, and by this point the plane will be at 38,000 feet. So it's changing because the vertical speed is also changing, so that's why this arc keeps on moving back and forth. But eventually by this point somehow we will be at, and we should be at 38,000 feet. I will be making the second video in which I will tell you how to start the descent and plus perform an ILS approach and landing with this plane. Hopefully this video has given you some good insights into the autopilot and this plane. And if you've got any questions, do ask me in the comment section. I've actually tried to keep this video very simple for the beginners, try to give as much information as I can. But if still you have got any questions, you can ask me. Maybe I can answer you in the comment section, or try to do another video in which I can touch some other topics which you think should have been touched in this video. And plus, if you've got any comments, the comment section is there for you. With this, I would just like to sign off. Have a nice day. Thank you very much for staying with me.